Welcome to Global Village Talk. We have a great show planned for you today. Today's topic is good hair versus bad hair. We know that racism exists, as does sexism and ageism, but is there similar discrimination and repression in our society based upon one's hair texture?
Welcome to Global Village Talk. Our topic today is good hair versus bad hair, or pelos menos, pelos buenos. That's Spanish for the same. Joining me for our discussion today are Cheryl Lynn Live Right. She's a corporate consultant, an author and writer, and resides in New York City. Also with us today is Marcia Fingal. Marcia is an Abrams model. She has accounts with Lexus, and I'm sure you've seen her face grace many magazines and publications throughout the country. And she's also an anchor for a local television cable network. Welcome, Marcia. Welcome, Liv.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This business about hair, is there such a thing as good hair, bad hair, and where did it derive from? Are we still at the point where we discuss hair in terms of quality? Liv, you want to take that?
I'll be happy to. I guess I want to start out by saying that I agree with the thoughts people have about good hair and bad hair not being limited to the African American woman's experience. Globally, there is a notion of light people being associated with leisure class and darker people being associated with the labor class, and the kinds of coarse hair versus fine hair that's attached to being darker or lighter is a part of that. So my sense is that we inherit it from thousands and thousands of years ago. It has its own expression in our society, but we share it with many, many sisters elsewhere across the globe.
So do you literally mean we inherited it from thousands of years ago? Was there this type of bias against coarse or kinky hair, do you think, or do you mean that figuratively?
I mean there's the coarse and fine tend to align with economics. And that is, people who work in the fields tend to be darker. Their body affects are coarser because they're doing heavy lifting, and the people who get to do less work tend to be less dark, tend to have more refined affect, is all I can say, whether it's hair or body movements, etc. So we inherit that. It's true in Italy, it's true in Spain, it's true in China, it's true in South America. It's a global phenomenon, and our expression of it is peculiar to us. We have special language for it, but the sisters across the globe would identify with it.
And it seems that that language is a part of the iconography of slavery, dating back to the slaves, of course, being field hands for the most part, as you indicate. Why has that legacy stayed with us so long? Why is it so difficult, or has it been, for us to shed the legacy that's associated slavery and coarse hair and dark skin with the lower classes and with Africans?
Dennis, all I can say is, I'm not an expert on this, obviously, but what I can say is somebody must be getting paid for this. What happens is people want light children. They want light children because there's a presumption they'll marry rich people, they'll get to live in nicer places, and they'll get to take care of their elders when the elders get old. So the payoff is that you marry better. I'd hate to be graphic about it, but that to me is how this plays out and why we're so reluctant to give it up.
But Dennis, I think as we're here on the cusp, it's 2003. Having Afrocentric hair is so in, it is so modern, it is so hip and funky to have an afro, to have locks. There's so many natural hairstyles. You have celebrities sporting them. You have Joe Schmo on the street wearing natural hairstyles. And I think it's very hip. I think in the 60s and 70s, when you had the afro that came full surgence, and here we are, it was a time of upheaval, civil upheaval in this country, and the afro was symbolic of that. The more natural, the more empowering it is for black people. And I think we've come back to that. The 60s and 70s were very Afrocentric in hairstyling, and then the 80s, we definitely started getting our hairs permed and relaxed, and all kinds of conks and straightenings in it. And then now I think we're back, back to natural hairstyles, and I think it's fabulous, really.
I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting that there's an economic incentive that's very powerful, of course, to the DuPonts and to the other chemical barons in our country and the conglomerates who manufacture and produce and weave the horsehair that goes into these textures. So there's a cottage industry of every imagination that goes into this whole development of the hair industry that's become a $1.7 billion industry, as I understand it.
Least identified is the extent to which the continent of Asia, however, is the epicenter for wigs. So it's almost impossible in America to get, in the U.S., to get a U.S.-made 100% natural hair products sewn, those falls that ladies like so much. That market tends to be centered in Korea. And a business person I know actually sent me a copy of the trade journal that governs that, and it's written in Korean. So I think there's a segmentation about the market, I think, that some of which is under the radar screen for us. Some of it is managed by Asians. Some of it is managed by women particularly who specialize in braiding hair and knowing what to do with natural hair. And then there's a huge market of what many people I know, there's a whole network of Dominican hair salons here in New York of ladies who seem to understand something about African-American hairstyles. So my sense is there's a very international set of professionals who are involved in taking care of black people's hair. I think significantly about one of the things that's going on in South Africa that I find so extraordinary is that as soon as that economy began to open up after Mandela's presidency, one of the earliest entrants in that market were the hair straightening people, like the Carson's hair care products and so on, which I found extraordinary because so many households in South Africa don't have hot water. So it spoke to me, spoke volumes about the priorities that community would have, that before we even handle infrastructure, we got to get our hair straight.
Has this